At least you don't have to hold yours. I have to hold
You have
mine.
to hold yours? Wow.
Yes.
Dude, that must be a pain in the
How
ass.
small is your apartment?
It's convenient. We'll deal with the small space and then my rent went from 800 to 1,000 and we went, "Oh, for 1,000 we could definitely go someplace else and get more."
Yeah, like a small village in Indonesia.
This is the Citadel Cafe.
This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 81, recorded live Wednesday, September 25th, 2013. I am Joel Duggan, and to my right is Mr. Paton Francis of the Cardboard Treehouse. Peyton, what's going on, man?
All kinds of stuff. Good to be back. Sorry I missed you guys. What's up with you guys?
Let's see. Well,
We have a new guest.
We do have a new... Well, he's new. Is he new?
No, he's
I
been
don't
here
know. He's old. He's old hat.
Yeah.
He's old. Well, and there might even be some zombie brains under the hat. Lou Page is back this evening.
Howdy guys. Thanks for having me back.
Always welcome, sir. Lou hails from realms of Zombies Ate My Podcast. We just had your co-host on last week.
Yes. And I hear he had a lot of fun.
Ryan, it's nice because Ryan and I, we're friends, but we don't podcast together on a regular basis. So when he comes on our show, we both kind of get a chance to catch up as well as, do a podcast together. So it was quite a lot of fun. And we we really got off the rails.
It kind of turned into wedding talk
Oh my
from what I
God.
heard.
Yeah. Ryan and Ashley are getting hitched. So he was sharing his first experience with winning venues and stuff like that. It was an interesting kind of that and coffee kind of took over the first half an hour of our last episode.
I will say your advice to him is pretty much the same I've been giving him when we're not recording.
Nice. I did it on recording because I think it's pretty sound advice for anybody getting married.
And what advice is that?
Oh, I think he was talking about. Lou, are you talking about the guest list?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, a couple of people, Jocelyn's friends and Ryan and Ashley are getting married, and they're stressing about pissing people off by inviting or not inviting and all this kind of stuff. And we were just saying just invite the people that you'd be really disappointed if they weren't there, and that's your list.
Yep.
It shouldn't be a long one. It should be an essential one, and hopefully those are the people that would come and. You don't have to worry about inviting your third cousin removed on your grandmother's side and all that kind of stuff. So,
and then you gotta get into the parents inviting, your babysitter from when you were 5 or something. You're like, I don't even know them.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, they're not. It doesn't look like they're having a very traditional thing. So Ryan was a little bit concerned about parents being traditional and whatnot, but it looks like it's gonna. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be good. Jocelyn and I are already planning on figuring out how to get there. It's good because Ryan lives close to her parents, so it's really a good excuse to travel back to Ontario and visit her folks and stay for a little while longer. So it's not, not that we wouldn't go just for Ashley and Ryan's wedding, but when things are tight, it's nice to be able to kind of kill two birds with one stone and stay for a couple of days with Jocelyn's folks, and then go down for the wedding and do whatever. So it should be a good weekend. It looks like that's going to be in the springtime. I can't remember what Jocelyn said. I don't even know if there's an official date yet, so I shouldn't say anything on air.
I don't think there's an official date yet. He hasn't said anything to me anyway.
Okay. Well, if you happen to be new to the Citadel Cafe and you did not witness the wedding talk last week, that's not the norm. Normally what we talk about are the geeky and fantasy sci-fi stuff that we are into. Could be a television show, could be a movie, could be a comic book or a website app for your friendly mobile devices, depending on what you're into. We will let you know if we think it's cool. We will also let you know if we think it sucks bananas. And I have been enjoying a lot of really cool stuff lately, so I don't have many complaints, which is nice. But I do have a couple of quick, announcements to get out of the way at the top of the show. The first is a happy birthday shout out to longtime listener and friend of the show, Cal McLeod. Happy birthday, sir. I apologize. It's been so long since we've seen you guys. It's been too long. Cal and his wife Helen are super fun people, and Jocelyn and I have been meaning to hang out with them more often, but everybody's busy. But we figured the least we could do would be to give Cal a shout out on the show because I know he listens. So happy birthday, sir! Hope you have a good one.
Happy birthday!
And hopefully we'll see you soon for a birthday beer at some point. I had a really nice dark pilsner, or a dark porter. I think it was a dark pilsner at the Foggy Goggle last night, which I know was one of Cal's favorite places. So if you are listening, try the Nocturne Dark Pilsner from Propeller. It's very, very, very good. And secondly, we actually had an email reply to the long, drug-out coffee conversation that Ryan and I had last week. So if you'd like to email the show or even drop us a comment on our blog, which is thecitadelcafe.com, you can do so. And our comment with regards to the coffee stuff that we talked about last week is from Loriga. And he or she writes, I love the show and usually listen to the day it shows up in my feed. I apologize that my first comment comes as a criticism, but I just couldn't sit by. Full disclosure, I work for the Berkeley Ecology Center. It's the Bay Area nonprofit focused on the environment. You guys mentioned the Keurig single cup coffee makers. You may want to read the following article, and he sends us a link to East Bay Express about the new craze in coffee. Essentially, he says, the packaging for these single cup coffee mixtures can't be recycled or composted. If widespread adoption continues, this could really add to our already pressing environmental problems. Compound that with the high price point per cup of coffee, and those Keurig single cups just don't make sense at all. French press for the win. So, yay, I was right. I was assuming, I was actually, or I was wrong. I was right in thinking that French press is the better way to go, but I thought that these coffee things were at least recyclable, like the little cartridges for the Keurigs, and they're not.
They're not. But I was actually mentioning this to my wife, and she said that they do make reusable ones.
You can get a filter. Like you can get like a nylon filter or a plastic filter so that you can put your own grounds in it, and that you can reuse. But that doesn't, then you don't get the flavored or the different kinds of coffee
or the convenience, and
all that kind of stuff.
Convenience. So.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I don't find the French press that much trouble. Granted, I don't have to go anywhere in the mornings, but I really appreciate the correction and the comment on the blog. As I mentioned, you can leave a comment on the website. You can send us messages via Twitter or Facebook, and also, of course, Gmail. And everything is just the Citadel Cafe. You can find us quite easily. And the last, but not least, of my little announcements here at the top of the show is I am a guest now at Hal-Con 2013. Jeez, I can't speak tonight. Man, officially a guest at Hal-Con 2013. It's a good thing that I'm not doing, panels at this thing where I'm going to be speaking to a bunch of people, which is exactly what I'm doing. So I just, the contract has been signed. Everything is a go. I can't remember whether I mentioned it last week or not. I may not have, just because I still had to have a conversation with Jennifer Lamb at Hal-Con about what they were expecting. But I had that meeting last Friday, and everything looks very, very cool. There's a huge list of guests, lots of people that are going to be very cool to meet and to hopefully do some panels with in terms of the comic folks. And that is going to be happening, I believe it's the weekend of November 8th.
And 10th.
It's like 40-something days away. Not very long. A little over a month.
43 days, 3 hours, and 4 minutes.
They've got a counter on their website. So if you're interested at all, we'll leave. It's just hal-con.com. I will also, of course, put the link in the show notes so you can check out the other people that are going. If you're going to be in town for Hal-Con, I really encourage that you go, because one of the things that I found out through this meeting with Jennifer on Friday was that the first floor of Hal-Con is going to be free and open to the public.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the vendor area. So a very cool idea, I think, on Hal-Con's behalf to open that up to the public. Anybody can come in and walk through on the ground floor. If you want to go up to the show floor where the guests are and where the gaming and all that kind of stuff is, then you'd have to buy a ticket. But you can at least go check out the vendor and the art show on that main floor of the Trade and Convention Center and
very
check
smart.
it out. Yeah, I think so too. Especially for example, Paton, like you've got a toddler.
Yeah.
You might want to go, but Ewan might decide that he doesn't want to be there after 20 minutes.
Especially, seeing some of the costumes, you'd be like,
Yeah, so I
get
mean,
me out of here, right?
for parents and kids that
What's
want to
she
check it
wearing?
out, yeah, for parents and kids that want to check it out, it's a no risk sort of situation rather than I don't know what the Hal-Con tickets are. I forgot to look that up before I started, but like dropping between $20 and $50 depending on the size of the family to go in for the day, only to turn around, an hour later. If that was the
Yeah.
case, that would be kind of disappointing. So at least this way, you guys can check it out, on your own free of charge. But that's it. That's my long list of announcements to get out of the way. However, we are not done. I'm finished. But for the last little while, our dear friend Paton has been teasing something on the Citadel Cafe, and finally,
Finally.
you get to announce what it is.
Yeah.
About time.
Yay.
I've been listening every week, waiting to hear what this is.
If I could make a
So-
long, like dragging sound of the soapbox being pulled over to Peyton.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll be hearing a lot more about this over the next, I guess, 5 months. That's all we have left for this one. Anyway, yeah. So for anyone who couldn't tell from my accent, I'm from Newfoundland, and in Newfoundland, there's a history of seafaring and all that fun stuff. And in 1914, there was a maritime disaster that a book was written about called "Death on the Ice." And it happened during the sealing season where they're going out and culling the seals and that sort of thing. At that point in time, much more environmentally friendly than it would be, I guess, portrayed in the nowadays. But anyway, it's about the men and the work they do. So anyway, during that season, there was a miscommunication between two of the boats. 130 something men were put on the ice. 78 of them froze to death over a period of 54 hours. And based on corporate greed and stuff like that. I have some relatives who were involved in the story, and so there was a book written on it in the 70s called Death on the Ice by an author named Cassie Brown. So about a year and a half ago, I brought this to the National Film Board of Canada with the idea of doing a stop motion short about this. Over time, it's evolved into something a little more conceptual, I guess, in its visual style. We're going to be doing more of a mixed media approach with silhouette projections, shadow puppets, stuff like that, as well as comping some other animation in there. So I'm going to be co-directing it with Bruce Ellicock out of British Columbia. And so I'm going to be basically directing a film with the National Film Board of Canada for the next few months. And the 100th anniversary of this event is coming up in March. So the film is going to be completed for that in time for the anniversary. So, which is kind of fun. Anyway, it's that's the basic elevator pitch sort of thing, right? So
very well. Look, I mean, I've known about this privately for quite a while, but I only found out today that it was funded and you guys could talk about it and everything's an absolute go. So congratulations, man. That's fantastic.
Thanks,
I'm
man.
really happy for you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's pretty exciting. So so actually this week I'm gonna be flying back out to BC. We're gonna finish up the Leica reel and get that ready, and then December we're going to be doing a 2-week shoot in Newfoundland with puppets and stuff like that. Doing some animation prior to and afterwards, and probably editing pass in January, and yeah.
So
February, so.
You'll have to let us know whether you're able to share some of the production process on your blog, or
yeah, I'm looking into that as well. So yeah, and like when we were looking at maybe doing a stop motion, I actually have some stop motion tests that I've done with a puppet that I built, and some comp backgrounds and stuff like that. And so I got a little video of me doing the sculpts and stuff and some of the process behind that. The idea is I would like to try to get some supplemental material to go along with the film so that the National Film Board has a lot of the films that are distributed through schools and stuff. Mm-hmm. And this book, Death on the Ice, is part of the curriculum in Newfoundland. And, it's part of the Newfoundland heritage stuff. So to be able to have the film based on the story the book was based on, so you can, as you're watching the film, there'll be a guy in the background. You're like, oh, that's who that guy is. Or, that everything that happens in the film is not actually dramatized. Like in the book, my great-grandmother's uncle, Reuben Crew, He was 43 at 40. I think it was 49 at the time. Sorry. Anyway, he gave sealing up 3 years prior because he almost died in this big sealing disaster a few years in Greenland, a few years prior to that. And then his son, who was 15, got a berth on the ship called the Newfoundland, based on his own man's name. So we made a little change at the beginning of the story and stuff. And anyway, his mother's there, and he sends him off and that sort of thing. And he can't keep an eye on his young fella. And after the second day being lost on the ice with the rain and the freezing rain, and the snow and everything, the son would fall and the father would pick him up, and then the father would fall and the son would pick him up, and that sort of thing. And then eventually they couldn't get up, so they sat on the ice, and the father sort of protected the son under his arms, and that's how they were found froze to death a few days later. So they're actually being used. That story arc is being used within our story, but also as a memorial statue that's being erected in memorial of the sealers. That's going to be erected in Newfoundland. So Reuben and his son Albert John are the actual characters for the statue as well. So to have this film come out around the same time frame and all that will be neat too. So
Yeah, no, it sounds like a big event. So I mean, you can obviously let everybody know closer to the event, but it sounds like it's probably going to be premiered in Newfoundland.
yeah, we're thinking it'll probably be in I think we're not quite sure where, but oh yeah, as far as I know, we'll have something will be happening in Newfoundland. And it's funny because Reuben actually has a granddaughter who's 91 and a grandson who's around the same age, living in Grand Falls as well as Springdale. Springdale, sorry, everyone Stevendale, I think. Stevendale or Springdale. Anyway, I was talking to her a while because I wanted to get a picture of Reuben, and there's only like one or two pictures of him available, right? Because 100 years ago they weren't that common in the outports. And when I called her, she thought it was a telemarketer. She hung up on me, and I had to call her back. I'm like, no, I'm not trying to sell you anything, right? So it's really quite funny. But if she can't make it to the film, it's only been an hour down the road from where I grew up, so I'll take the film and go to her house and that sort of thing. So it'll be fun. So
cool,
anyway,
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to hearing more about it as the project progresses and as you're able to share, some of the stuff. And we will keep everybody abreast as to what is going on via, social media and of course the show. So, and Lou, what's new with you, man? It's been a couple of weeks, I think, since you've been on.
Yeah, not a whole lot. Lots of writing and lots of packing boxes. I might be moving in the next few months, so I'm trying to get a head start.
It's not a bad idea. I think I've mentioned on the show before that I've been in the same apartment for probably 12 years. And I mean, I hate moving. So when eventually we find the right place, I'm sure we will move, but it's going to take a lot to get me to put everything that I have into boxes and move it. I don't want to do that more than once or twice.
Yeah, I'm just kind of taking non-essential stuff that's sitting around that hasn't been used or picked up in God knows when.
Yeah,
So
like books and stuff that you've read, and yeah.
Put it in a box, put it in the closet. That way it'll be ready when time comes.
Yeah, one less thing to do. So what have you been writing about?
I just did an article. I write over at Games Are Evil, and I do their take on retro old games. And since I only do the articles every 2 weeks, my theme for the next few weeks is going to be Halloween based. So last week I wrote about Silent Hill 2 for PlayStation 2 and what it did to change the horror genre and why it still holds the test of time even though it's 10 years old. So
right on. I haven't played many horror games.
Yeah.
It's definitely one if you're looking for a horror game to dig up a copy of. It's really, really weird and creepy.
Huh. Is that available on PC? Like Steam or something?
There was a version for PC somewhere, but it's out of print and you can't find it anywhere.
Okay. Well,
there was a re-release for Xbox 360, I think.
Well, we have one of those. If I see it in the bargain bin at EB or something like that, I'll have to pick it up.
It's definitely worth it. It's only takes about 8 hours probably to finish, but it's 8 hours that will stick with you when you're done.
That sounds intense.
Very.
Very cool. I've actually been playing. I'm going to tease this now because I know I'm going to talk about it a little bit more next week. But I haven't been watching a whole lot because I've been playing a fair amount of Borderlands 2. This is my first time playing through. I've played the first one, and I'm just now getting into the second one, even though it's been out for a few months now. And talk about entertaining. It's not a horror game, but it's a kind of a gory action game, and some of the villains that come at you are interesting, to say the least. And I've been really enjoying that. And as I've been getting into or having the opportunity to play some more video games, with Jocelyn being so into games, it's opened my eyes to some genres that I didn't realize I was going to like. I've always liked first-person shooters. I used to play them all the time with Chad, but it was always kind of arena stuff. It was just, here's your map, here's your 40 guys, shoot anything that moves that's not on your team. So the story-based stuff for Borderlands 2 has become very interesting to me, and so it's kind of like this weird mix between an MMO, and an RPG, and a first-person shooter. And I'm looking forward to trying some of the other stuff, like Jocelyn has recommended Bioshock, Bioshock 2, and of course now you've recommended, what was it called? No, not Half-Life. Half-Hill?
Silent Hill.
Silent Hill.
2.
Silent Hill 2. And those are the type of things that I think I would probably enjoy, because even just playing Mass Effect recently, it really does not feel as much like a video game as it does feel like a movie that you're kind of just taking part in. So I'm looking forward to trying some stuff out. And it was delayed a week, but eventually Jocelyn, myself, Ryan from the Gamers Inn, and Paul Swickard are going to play and stream some Borderlands 2, not this Friday, but next Friday, right after the show on the Gamers Inn. And that should be a lot of fun too, because some of the stuff in this game is just hilarious. I mean, for mature audiences.
It's worth it just for the voice acting alone.
Oh my God. It's so funny. So funny. So that's my teaser for next week. I will talk about it a little bit more as things progress, because Justin and I will obviously have some more time to play a game. Well, that's it. We can, I guess, move into movies, TV, and video here. But before we do, I want to mention that one of the great ways that you can support this show would be to support me. I produce the Citadel Cafe. I do all the editing and hosting and stuff for the show. So if you are at all interested in helping us out and keeping the show going, you can visit my web store, which is joelduggan.com/store, and check out my t-shirts. These are just brand new on the scene. As per, I think it was a week ago, 2 weeks ago when I got them in the mail. They are all shipped out to the people that ordered them with the Indiegogo campaign. And if not, then you need to talk to me ASAP, because I am missing your shirt size or something happened in the meantime. However, it is a really cool opportunity to check out some of the things that I have designed. They are ordered at /Loot, which is my partner in the US for the shirts. There's a huge range of sizes, so you're more than likely to find something that will fit you. There's both men's and women's designs, and they are $19.95. So if you're interested in picking up a Starcrossed shirt, then head on over to joelduggan.com/store and check out the designs. And let me know what you think, because I've got some ideas for some more shirts. So if you'd like to see more, then shoot me a line, and I will throw some more options out there for people.
Cool.
Right on. So, Mr. Francis, it's been a while since we've had a bit of information from you, and I'm really curious about this movie that you're going to talk about. So, what have you been watching, sir?
Just odds and ends, but I ended up watching Snow White and the Huntsman. I saw it online.
I'm sorry.
The Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yeah.
Like the Charlize Theron.
I think he heard you. I think he was just,
old, whatever.
I think he just felt bad for you.
I know it wasn't a horrible film. Like,
really,
I didn't think so. It wasn't like a great. It was what it was, right? Some of the motivations. Old Stone Eyes, whatever you want to call the Twitard chick. Anyway.
Kristen something or other. I can't remember her name. Lou, do you know who it is? The girl from Twilight.
Girl from
Kristen
Twilight.
Stewart.
Kristen Stewart.
You.
I wasn't close.
I just remember from Zathura, which was a great film. But anyway, but the one of the things I really enjoyed about the film is the it's the reality of the film, the fantasy of the film. It all it's got a nice cohesiveness to it. Like, it's not like one thing is separate from the other. I thought it was pretty neat. So you walk along and like, oh, troll, and there's a troll, and you're like, okay, well, that's a troll, and you just deal with it, right? And it's not like, I don't know, like there's not a whole lot of awe to the fantasy of the film. Is like just matter of factly like, oh, here it is, sort of thing, which I thought was kind of neat. So a few things are a little odd, and you can also see where some of the influence come from anime or whatever, right? So, but it was
Interesting.
it was an all right film. It wasn't I wouldn't rent it, but I saw it streaming online on a site. So, but
Is it is the art direction decent? Like, I mean, I remember looking at the costume for, I think it's Charlize Theron. She's the queen, right?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and her costume looked pretty cool.
Yeah, no. They, like I said, visually, it was a beautiful film. Like, it's got some great costume designs. The makeup was great. Like, they age her. As her power starts waning, she gets older, and vice versa and stuff.
Interesting.
And the transitions from when she changes and hides herself as another character, going back to them to who she looks like. It was a unique way of doing it. It wasn't completely morphed or whatever. So it was,
Like kind of like how one would expect it
Yeah.
to happen. So they got inventive with some special effects. And
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, and some of the magic elements were pretty neat. It's like when she travels. Well, she travels as a flock of crows sort of thing, right? But when
fun.
she gets to her destination, she's spent from that effort, right? And she's pretty tore up by the time she's finished with that, right? But it was some good makeup there, some good art direction, it was, and like at one point they go into like the dark forest and you see all these creatures and stuff. But part of that is because if you fall down and you get like the basic mold spores on you, it makes you hallucinate, right? So it's so it's like fantasy but set in reality. So it's kind of neat. So
Interesting. Do what would you think about the acting? Like, would you say it was on par with everybody involved, or was it
because it
Theron's got
wasn't
an
Phantom
Oscar, does she
Menace,
not?
but it wasn't Shakespeare.
Nice.
I know it. I
That's
know
a
it did.
huge gap.
I know it did well enough that there's talk that might make a Huntsman movie, but
Yeah.
I think that got put on the back burner.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
after the entire thing of Kristen and the director and all that stuff.
oh, jeez. Well, TCC fan in the chat room is saying that she thinks there might be a sequel to that movie. So, would you rent that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't say I had any interest. I'm actually kind of because what's his face from Thor? Isn't it? Chris Hemsworth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got a decent little backstory and stuff, and he does what he can with the part. So
Yeah. Well, I imagine some of that stuff is probably really good on paper, but probably changes a lot once it actually gets to filming.
Yeah,
So
and also the editing will have a part.
Yeah, when the actors get on board, they're signing on to sometimes a very different script. Like I remember even, some of the writers like back on like Transformers 2 and stuff like that. They were all excited, and then the movie comes out, and they're just like, I don't want to have any part of this. Forget that I even wrote it. They've changed so much of it that I don't want to be associated with it. So I'm sure actors probably go through some of the same things. When their best takes are left on the cutting room floor and their corniest takes are put in the movie, and they're just like, what? Why? Why would you do
the funniest
that?
acting choice I got to think of is Sean Connery, when he did Gentleman. What's the thing?
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah, I mean because prior to that he turned down the role of Gandalf, I guess, right? And he's like, I don't understand. He's like, I'll take this thing because I guess the kids are into it, and the thing tanked, right?
Jeez.
It's like, okay.
Interesting. Lou, what about you, man? What's been on the small silver screen?
I've been looking for something sci-fi related to watch, and I stumbled across a show here in America on the Sci-Fi Channel called Haven. It's been recommended to me by several people, and I decided to give it a shot just because of the actress in it. I'm a huge fan of the Uncharted video games, and the lead actress in the show, Emily Rose, is one of the lead voice actors in the games. So it's always weird to see voice actors that you've been seeing in video games forever show up in a TV show, because then you have face to put to the voice, and you don't normally have that. So it's Haven is supposedly a small town in Maine. I live in Maine, so once again, lots of tie-ins here.
Well, it's actually shot here in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, I can tell from the background scenes it's not Maine, but they do a very good job making it look like it's Maine. but it's based on the short story The Colorado Kid by Stephen King. I've never read it, and they don't really do a good job in the first episode explaining to you what it is, except that there's a woman, somebody got killed, and there's a woman in the background shot that looks like the main character, but it was 30 years ago, so they don't know why that person looks like her. They think it's her mother, and she's in the uh, Amelia, the lead. Audrey, the lead character, is an FBI agent that comes to this small town looking for a missing escaped con, and finds out that there's weird things going on in town, like supernatural events, and then sees the photo of what she thinks is her mother and decides to stay. And that's kind of the plot of the show. Why are all these people in town getting weird powers? It's very Stephen King, like every episode.
Cool.
So-
I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show before, but there at some point, I don't know what season it was, there was a haunted house in one of the episodes.
Yep.
Have you caught up to that?
I think I may have.
Okay, well, that was shot in Chester, in Nova Scotia, and that is actually an old Duggan family home.
Wow,
Yeah,
really?
yeah, small world. My dad told me about that last year when I was at Hal-Con, because some of the people, of course, that were filming Haven in Nova Scotia were at Hal-Con, and they were talking about the series. And when Dad caught wind of the different locations around the province, and they looked into it, my uncle Bud, who was actually still alive at the time, actually he told Dad about like which house it was, and it was something my dad used to vacation there when he was a kid.
Wow.
Yeah, weird,
I'll
eh?
have to rewatch that episode.
Small world.
Well,
Yeah.
I like to see things that take place in Maine. I've lived here most of my life, and unfortunately, whenever I find something that takes place in Maine, they do a really bad job capturing Maine accents, capturing the setting. You'll see something in the background, you'll be like, "That's Oregon. That's not Maine." I can tell from the trees in the background or the way that lighthouse is shaped. That's not Maine. And watching this show, it's like, not everybody nails a Maine accent, but when they do try, they do a very good job, and it's full of not pretty people. It looks like a small town in Maine.
Well, I've taken a road trip to Maine before, and it is surprising how similar to Nova Scotia it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
I've had family that's lived in Nova Scotia,
Yeah.
and they said it's pretty much the same idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's maritime, environments, that kind of stuff. The only thing that I noticed was, of course, that the population is certainly denser in Maine. You'd get your picturesque, kind of fishing village town, but there would be a lot more people there than in some of the villages that I've seen around Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
But cool. No, I'll have to check that out. I've always meant to, especially after my dad shared that story with me last year. I've always meant to check it out. But I'll
I
have
mean,
to,
it's not going to win any awards, but if you're looking for something neat that just kind of pick up and go, it has an interesting enough story to keep going, even though you can see some plot holes. They're forgiving.
yeah. Do they share it online, like the day after or a week later, something like that?
I've been watching it on Netflix streaming.
I'll have to check. I don't think it's in Netflix in Canada, which is funny because it's filmed up here.
It wasn't on Netflix streaming until like a couple of weeks ago. Like I just
okay.
stumbled across it, so it might have just shown up there too.
I will check it out. I'll check it out. We just had an Apple TV update the other day, so hopefully that also refreshed Netflix with some other stuff. So, and speaking of, that's what I've been watching this week. I haven't had a lot of time for it, but I did manage to dive into Derek, which is the new Netflix-produced comedy that is on the streaming service. I only watched season 1, episode 1, which was the pilot episode. There's only 7 episodes in the season. They're pretty short, all in and around a half an hour, give or take. Again, with the Netflix stuff, they don't have to keep to any precise time. But one thing I wanted to mention right off the bat was that it bills itself as a comedy. The way that they describe it, Ricky Gervais stars. He is the creator and I guess he's the British producer for The Office. And they bill it as a heartwarming comedy drama where Derek Noakes, a loyal English nursing home caretaker who sees only good in people, and you kind of follow his life around this nursing home. And he's quirky. He's, he's got some challenges, mentally, and the character that he plays is a very unique individual, but he's childlike in his optimism, and he's got some very odd friends. So it's got that whole kind of like awkward British comedy thing. It's very, very dry, but it also has a lot of very emotional moments in it. Uh, Jocelyn and I were watching, and I started it. She sat down with me. Um, I will caution anybody to watch this if you have elderly members of the family. It's not as funny as it bills itself to be, and it can be quite serious and quite moving. And if you're not ready for that, um, it's a little bit off-putting. Like when you're in the mood to sit down and laugh, and you watch this, there are some funny moments, but it's not like Big Bang Theory or How I Met Your Mother, like the real kind of like joke after joke after joke, with really funny moments, classic TV stuff. It's not that kind of show. I will certainly watch more and not judge it just on the first episode, especially now that I know what I'm dealing with. But it's a really unique show. I don't know how it makes me feel. Like you have some really funny laugh out loud moments, and then you've got some really upsetting moments too, all within like a half an hour. So it doesn't have a lot of time to tell the story, and I'm curious to see where they're going to take it. And it does, however, make me, look at Ricky Gervais in a much different light. I've always thought of him as like a funny man, kind of like say anything, lots of really, crass jokes and in a not well, in an intelligent way. Like I understand the guy's talented, but you look at him in a very different light. You understand just how good of an actor he actually is and has an opportunity to be in the show. So if you're interested in something really different, try season 1 of Derek on Netflix. But again, just be aware that it's not just a comedy. It's not the kind of sitcom that you might be used to if you're watching a lot of primetime stuff. But check it out. You never know.
That's kind of why I've been on the fence about it. I've added it to my instant queue, but I've been like, I hear it's got some tearjerker moments. I'm gonna wait till I'm in a better mood to watch something like that.
You really kind of have to. It's one of those shows that you want to be mentally prepared for. It's like walking into the first season of The Walking Dead and not knowing what to expect. It hits you like a ton of bricks. And then you go into the third season of Walking Dead, the score, like what to expect. It's going to be an anxious hour, like you're prepared, and I don't know, like it was misleading, and maybe I didn't do enough research, before I dove in. Several people I follow on Twitter had recommended it, and they're people that like really funny, silly stuff. So I would have thought, yeah, sure, great. Let's watch this. But it's like I said, I wanted to give people fair warning because it is really a mixed emotional show. If it's something you want to check out,
there's a great interview sort of show with Ricky Gervais, Louis C.K., Chris Rock, and Jerry Seinfeld called Talking Funny. You can find it on YouTube. But it's about 50 minutes long, and you get a little real insight into Ricky Gervais' sort of background a little bit. He goes into about his motivations and his approach to comedy and how he refines his jokes and all that stuff, right? So if you're looking to see sort of the root of where some of his thought process comes from, you probably get a little insight on that through that thing. There's also a bit of him and Seinfeld in Jerry's show, Comedians in Cars Having Coffee.
Yeah, I do remember that episode. It was okay. Like, I didn't find it was funny, but I didn't find it informative in terms of like him as an actor, as a comedian.
But the Talking Funny is a good way to the guys, four of the top guys in the craft sitting around talking about the craft is pretty neat. So yeah.
Cool. Well, I guess we can move into what we have been reading, and I only have a quick article to mention off the top, and it is called DC Comics: The Normal Course of Business, and it is not at all a compliment to DC Comics. I am not a huge comic reader when it comes to mainstream stuff. I've been reading more graphic novels and stuff lately. But this author, or I guess journalist, Andrew Wheeler, wrote on comicsalliance.com and basically gave DC a very well-spoken smack on what is wrong with DC's business lately. There's been a lot of well-known and talented artists and writers. We'll just say creative, just so I don't have to keep on distinguishing. Creative people that are involved in the comic industry that have been leaving DC verbosely, have been not afraid to burn bridges and say, I don't want to work here at all ever again. This is ridiculous. And I won't get into all the details. There's a couple events that happened, some really bad PR timing in combination with some very bad choices. And the demographic that they seem to be focusing on, which is always the criticism of mainstream comics, which is the, young adolescent, white male, and how all the books are kind of geared to try to attract that kind of reader, despite the fact that it's been pretty clear that comic readers lately have been wanting a diverse, I guess, bookshelf of stuff to pick from. But one of the things that I found, I don't know whether this is reassuring or whether it's, disappointing, but to see the kind of thing happen at even that level of artistry and professional art in comics, it is the revisions that happen after things are approved. Like when you've got a writer and an artist that have been working on a book or a series of books, and they've been approved. Like there's a pitch process, there's some rough thumbnails, there's a rough package, but a clear direction of a story arc that's then sent to the editors at DC. And then it's approved. So then the writer and the artist and the pencilers and the inkers and all the people involved can start to make it. And then at the last minute, things get changed. And this seems to happen a lot lately with DC. And artists are getting pissed off because I'm guessing that the revisions do not earn them any extra money from the sound of it. Now that's a assumption on my part. I don't know all the facts behind that. But from the way that they're being outspoken about it and leaving I guess you could say employment. I mean, a lot of people are freelance, but they're leaving DC and just citing basically irreconcilable differences as the reasons. And the Wheeler is pointing out a lot of very good, clear reasons as to why DC is basically flushing all of its steam down the toilet, which it had some with the New 52 when it was released like 2 years ago, but it seems to be floundering in terms of the quality of the content, and which is disappointing because you're talking about some big properties like Batman, Superman, Justice League. Like these are big things, and they want to do big things with movies. But I mean, if your comic stuff is just falling apart, then you're not going to have anybody that's interested in seeing the movies either.
Yeah. And they're always seem to be chasing after whatever Marvel's doing, trying to play catch up and all that. And I saw a thing today. They were talking about how Gotham, they're going to be taking a CSI, a Law and Order sort of approach to a cop show set in Gotham City, right?
With Commissioner Gordon as the lead, but before he was Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, so. Yeah, I guess that's sort of their sort of backhand response to the inevitable success of the Shield TV show, which is probably going to do very well for itself.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised. I've heard a lot of bad things about it today. I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard a lot of people complaining about it.
Oh, really? Interesting.
I've read several articles where they panned some of the artistic take on Shield. Don't hold me to it. I didn't write it, and I didn't watch it, but that's what I've heard. So I'm kind of hesitant now to jump feet first in the Shield.
I'm not invested in Marvel. I mean, I enjoyed the Avengers movie. Some of it still has some pretty far-fetched stuff for me. It's one of the reasons why I find I don't read a lot of mainstream comics. And if I do, I tend to stick to stuff like Batman. And I don't know why I'm not thinking that a guy that dresses up as a bat is far-fetched, but just like I prefer to not have trans-dimensional demons with magic gloves in my comic book stories. I understand it gets difficult with characters like Superman and you have to challenge him and stuff like that, but I find that there's at some point there's nothing wrong with Lex Luthor trying to take over the world with kryptonite somewhere, and like, I would read that.
I agree with you 100%.
Like just bring it home. Bring it home. Oh man, Peyton, what about you? What have you been checking out lately?
Odds and ends here and there, but I was going through some old bookmarks, cleaning up some stuff, and I found a link to a guy named Austin Kleon, Kleon. I can't pronounce his name. Anyway, he wrote a book called How to Steal Like an Artist, and they have a little sample of it there online. So I picked it and just got the sample. I might actually get into the book too, but he just goes into talking a bit about the genealogy of ideas and how nothing's original, and how all artists steal, and if you see something original, you're just not aware of what the reference material would have been, or what influenced that person to make those choices. So it just kind of an interesting little read, and I might pick it up and read the full thing. But he's a writer slash artist, so it's the book itself. It's riddled with different illustrations for his points, stuff like that, and I might give it a more further perusing, I guess. But that's about it's all on my bookshelf at the moment. How about you guys,
Lou?
Mr.
Well,
Lou?
I have been recently. I got through my Kindle a free interactive book. It's called Fighting Fantasy: Blood of the Zombies. Surprise, surprise! I'm talking about zombies. But it's apparently a series of books that came out 30 years ago, and they were written and created by the creators of Dungeons and Dragons, and they were written to originally be like a solo one-play Dungeons and Dragons game to keep you busy, like when you're bored. And they've sold really well, and they did about 80 of them. And a company called Tin Man Games, um, they love interactive choose your own adventure books, and they bought the rights to a bunch of these, and they've been re-releasing them on the iPad and the Kindle Fire for a while now. And I happened to get a copy of Blood of the Zombies, and it's awesome. I can't stress it enough. It's really fun. You're a kid that gets kidnapped by like uh, he's coming out of a diner and he gets mugged, wakes up and he's locked in the dungeon of a castle, and finds out that they're going to make him a zombie. And you have to escape, and you wander through a castle, like choose your own adventure style, and you'll stumble upon zombies, and you roll a dice and decide how many zombies you kill. And it's like a role play game. It's really fun.
Nice. I've been looking for more interactive books. I mean, I remember really liking Bottom of the Ninth, which was like an animated comic book on the iPad with like sound and animation and different stuff like that. But there was no choice. And choose your own adventure books are something that I'm really curious to see, where they might go, with iPads and Android tablets taking off and becoming more and more, prevalent in households, and especially in the hands of kids that are, either learning to read or excelling at reading. I can see these kind of things taking off. I don't know about zombies, but I'm sure that there'll be some other adventures.
The same company that does this has done several other Tin Man games. They have an entire series that's fantasy based that they've been writing themselves, and it's not. I would say it's kid friendly, but it's definitely teen friendly.
Cool.
And they're very neat. You have an inventory that the book tracks for you, like what you're carrying and what you can use as a weapon or as a tool to escape people chasing you and stuff. It's a lot of fun, and it's a good way to kill an afternoon.
Nice. Very, very cool. Right on. Well, I guess we can wrap up the show here with the Internet Minute. I have a quick pick off the start because it is a visual art blog. So I'm just going to toss out really quick the link in the chat room here, but also tell everybody to go to melmade.blogspot.ca. That's MELMADE. It is the artist home of Mel Milton, who is a character designer for the animation industry, and he does a lot of figure drawing. He does mostly kind of girls and pinups. There are some guys in there as well. Sometimes classic characters that you might recognize, like Dasim from Street Fighter 2 or something like that. But he has a unique hold on anatomy and
Mm-hmm.
simplifies it or exaggerates it. It's very cartoony, like it's more cartoony than say like a Disney feature film, but it is still more developed than say Saturday morning cartoon. Really, really beautiful stuff. His warm ups and his sketches and stuff in the morning are great. He posts a lot. I do follow him on Facebook, which is how I found him, kind of randomly. And we'll have the link for his Facebook page here in the show notes too. But if you look him up on Facebook, once you've seen his work on melmade.blogspot.ca, you'll be able to recognize his Facebook page and you'll be able to just follow him and get his updates there if that's your preferred method. But it's very, very cool stuff. I really enjoy it. So far, I haven't come across anything that's not safe for work. So there's no nudity, I don't think. And if there was, it would be artistic nudes, like a figure drawing class or something like that. So it wouldn't be anything over the top.
Yeah, it's not Harvey Keitel in front of a piano or something.
No, no. It's tasteful, for sure. Peyton, what about you, man?
I picked up a new app this week, Procreate, which is for drawing and painting and stuff for the iPad, and it's about $5, and it is super duper super fast, like really fast and pretty robust. And yeah, there's also an iBook that when I found the sample of the other book, I found a sample for this, and then that got me to buy the app. And it's really really fast, and it goes to like you can do full retina size for your drawings, or you can go like 4K, which is like huge, right? Anyway,
Cool.
and the brushes and stuff in are really quite fun, and I think it has like a 60 frames per second refresh rate or something like that. So it's like really fast. So like other apps, when you're dragging your finger across or your stylus across the iPad, you do get a little bit of lag in that. With this thing, there's no lag at all, and the blending happens naturally, the smudging, all that stuff you want to play with. It's all there.
Cool. No,
So,
do you feel that? Did you have it before you had iOS 7, or is this brand new?
I got I think it's been out for a little while there. I got it before I did the update. So
Okay. So did you notice it improve or not improve with the update for the operating system?
I haven't really noticed any really difference with that particular app,
Yeah,
but I
that's good.
find since the update, I find certain apps aren't really, functioning as they were. Like I don't know, is there something going on with Netflix at the moment?
Netflix over the last few months, in general, both Apple TV and on the iPad and the web have just been crappy.
Yeah.
I've noticed lots of changes, lots of like audio not syncing, wrong audio with wrong show. Like there's been a lot of stuff like that. So I wouldn't say Netflix would have iOS 7 problems. I've noticed a couple of apps that had issues, but they were apps that were slow before. So they either haven't updated. Instagram, for example, has had some iOS issues, and what was the other one that I noticed that was slow? Facebook is always a hog, but there's something else.
Facebook's just gross.
Yeah, no, there was one other app that I use. What was it called? Not Tumblr. Tumboard is my Tumblr app that I paid for. And I'm really disappointed that they did not update with iOS 7. It does not work, period.
Okay.
So, I mean, the Tumblr app still works. I can still get my single column view, but Tumboard was essentially a cascading visual mosaic of all of the feeds that I follow. And because I use Tumblr strictly for following artists, it was a really great way to see a lot of art quickly as I'm browsing through, and right now I'm just doing a single column thing with the Tumblr app. So I'm hoping that Tumboard will update because they need to. It's disappointing that it's just completely useless now. So, Lou, what about you? What's your pick?
I have one of those video game bundles that just came out last week. It's a site called Bundle in a Box, and they just released their indie RPG bundle. For $2, you can get 8 indie RPG games, and for $5 or $6, it's an average. So, right now their average is like $5.50, I think. You get 15 games instead of 8, and they're on all different systems. It's all DRM free. Everything is basically for PC, but they also have a couple of Steam codes. it's also lots of stuff for Mac friendly and Linux friendly, and there's lots of fun stuff. And one of the reasons I bring it up is Tin Man Games, who I just talked about. 2 of their adventure game books are part of the bundle.
Oh, cool.
So
Yeah, I will definitely have to check this out. I just noticed a new RPG came out from Hexage called Reaper, and that's free. So I'm looking to check that out.
free is always good.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going in-game purchase
Yeah.
route, but I'm a pretty patient gamer when it comes to that kind of stuff. So if it's not a horrible slog to play the game, I'll probably try to play the game to earn in-game gold to buy my new sword or get my next level up versus just paying cash up front. I prefer it if games that offer in-game or in-app purchases have cosmetic stuff versus stuff that actually gets you to complete the game faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do any of these games have in-game purchases, or are they all just kind of?
These are all gonna be you buy them and you're done.
Oh, nice.
And there's a variety of games. There's some strategy role playing games. There's some old school dungeon crawls where you're first person wandering through a dungeon. There's some roguelike stuff. There's a little bit of everything with all of these games. And like I said, interactive books too. I mean, you got to play them on your PC screen, but it beats not having them. So
Yeah. Well, for anybody that might be doing some traveling in the near future, hint hint, nudge nudge, Mr. Francis, it might be good to kill the wait time in airports.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very cool. Well, thanks, Lou. That's great. I don't often get the chance to talk about gaming on the show, so it's always neat to get some new stuff in there. Well, that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That wraps up this episode of the Citadel Cafe. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we record live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on joelduggan.com/live. Music for the show was composed by Kevin MacLeod, and of course, you can find the podcast on demand on our website, The Citadel Cafe, or iTunes. Contact the show at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, or Google Plus as just The Citadel Cafe. Don't forget not Thursday, that's tomorrow. This Friday night, tune in to the Gamers Inn at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on amove.tv. Ryan is away this week, but Garrett Weinzierl is going to be joining Jocelyn on the show as they break down their opinions of the latest gaming news and what they've been playing. Visit gamersinpodcast.com or amove.tv/TGI for details. My name, as I mentioned before, is Joel Duggan. You can find everything I am up to online at joelduggan.com, including my book, Starcost Volume 1, which is available in my web store, along with the t-shirts I mentioned. You can also find me on Twitter and Google Plus with just my name, Joel Duggan. Peyton, where can people find you online?
Cardboardtreehouse.com and other social media just by Peyton Francis, all one word. And how about you, Mr. Lou? How about you? Where can people find you?
well, the easiest way to find me is my Twitter handle, Busy Zombie Lord, on Twitter. And the next easiest way to find me is zombies8mypodcast.com. We do a zombie show every 2 weeks. And coming up, it's going to go every week because Walking Dead will be returning soon. So stay tuned for that. We're going to do episode rundowns every week.
Oh, nice. You guys kind of treat The Walking Dead like we treat the Game of Thrones.
Yes, yes.
Are there zombies in that? The Walking Dead?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Lots and lots of them.
Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick 2.
I think one of my favorite bait and switch movies has to be the Dust Till Dawn with Tarantino.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I remember my father was watching it with me, and he had no idea it was a vampire movie. She's like, "Oh, what's this, a bank heist movie? Cool, we'll watch it." He's like, "What the hell is going on?" I just out of nowhere.
Yeah, I remember really being confused by that movie.
Yeah, I had the reverse problem. I rented it because I thought it was a vampire movie, and the way it started out, I was like, so this isn't what I thought it was. And then all of a sudden the vampire showed up, and I was like, well, it took long enough to get here, but
Yeah, I find that for me, I think that it's just a disturbing movie the whole way around.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of a tendency with Tarantino and
Well, yeah, it's why I don't like most of his stuff, is I find he's just weird. I'm not refuting his artistic, expression and stuff like that. I mean, to each their own. But for me, I always find his stuff just really out to lunch.
my favorite of his is actually the one he did for uh, uh Death Proof, the short that was part of
yeah.
what's it called?
Right.
The
Grindhouse movies.
the Grindhouse films.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite of his, just because it was interesting to see Kurt Russell as a bad guy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. No, I'm not. I don't watch. I don't watch any horror movies really. I mean, the closest thing I get to a horror movie is watching The Walking Dead, which Jocelyn and I are planning on catching up on now that Halloween is coming. We've been meaning to watch it, and we're just never in the mood. But I think hopefully with October here and hopefully some free time, we're going to be able to sit down and catch up on The Walking Dead.
It's worth it. I mean, if you listen to us talk last season on Zombies Ate My Podcast, I was like mad this whole last season. Like I was screaming and hollering and shouting at my TV every episode, but it ended up wrapping itself up nicely.
Yeah, I mean, I think we started season 3. Like that's how far behind we are. So
Well,
we've
this is going to be season 4.
right.
So.
I know we didn't get through season 3. Does season 3 start off at the jail?
Yes.
Okay, so we only watched a few episodes of that, and then we just somehow lost interest, or something happened where we just kind of fell off the train
That kind of happened to me, but I had to keep watching for the show.
for the show. Yeah,
I was like, all right, I guess I'll sit down and watch it. And then it could pick back up again like 2 episodes later. And I was like, okay, I'm into it again.
yeah, yeah. And I find it. Well, I mean, I know I've mentioned it on the show. I mean, the show makes me anxious, and I have to be in the right kind of mood, knowing how I'm going to feel for the next hour watching that show.
Yes.
If I've had a stressful day, I don't want to watch the show. I just don't. I just don't want to do it. So it's weird because I mean it doesn't freak me out. It doesn't scare me. I just find that because of the way that they're so good at communicating the tension in the
Oh,
show
yeah.
that it makes me tense. I think that's what it is. It's just that they're visually, with the music, with the sound effects, with what you don't see. Like that, just they really communicate the anxiety of what it would be like. I feel, and it doesn't always sit well with me.
No, the problem I have is sometimes they take way too long to get to the point.
Mm.
And that's my gripe with the show is that they drag out plot points that they could have wrapped up in one episode for 3 episodes. And I'm like, I don't care anymore.
That's
Just
why.
shoot the person in the face.
Yeah, that's
and then like 3 episodes later, that's what happens. And you're like, well, you took long enough getting there. That's kind of my gripe with it.
Yeah, that's what we felt about season 2. They were on the farm for way too long.
You guys hear about the interview with what's her name that plays Marjorie Tyrell?
No.
About the cosplay stuff?
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
I read that.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a cute little clip. It
Yeah.
was a cute little story.
Because
Yeah.
I can't imagine being on a show and going someplace and then seeing people dressed up as me. That would weird me out.
Yeah.
I'd
and-
feel
and-
really
and-
uncomfortable.
Yeah, and she was saying like the pleats were in the right place, like everything was perfect in her costume, which is, a little off-putting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and she also had. I mean, I feel like she approached it really well. I mean, she was feeling for the girl, saying like, "Oh my God, dear, you must be freezing," because she's totally been there. Because the dress, the plunging necklines and stuff like that are so revealing that she's saying like, it looks pretty, but it's effing cold.
Yeah.
Especially with winter coming.
Lou, have you been following anything with the Goon movie?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I all I remember was I heard that they were prepping for it like maybe a year ago, and then
Yeah.
I haven't heard or seen anything since.
There is an animatic floating. I mean, there is a trailer for it floating around online.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it looks great. It looks like Clancy Brown is doing the voice of the Goon, and Paul Giamatti's doing the voice of Frankie,
Oh boy.
and it's perfect.